You ever get that feeling someone's been touching your stuff while you're not looking? That's how it all started. Just a little itch in the back of my head. I'm not what you'd call paranoid. Cautious, sure. Paranoid? Not unless you count locking up my shed like it's Fort Knox after the raccoons broke in last spring. I'm Nate, by the way. 32, recently bought a fixer-upper on the edge of a smallish neighborhood in North Carolina. I'm a carpenter, which is code for, I have a truck, I wear flannel, and I can make anything except small talk. I bought the property 6 months ago, house up front, a good chunk of land in the back, and a narrow gravel driveway along the side that led to an old detached garage and a decent open lot. That lot. It was mine, deeded and everything. Not shared. Not HOA regulated. Just plain OL Nate-owned dirt. Or at least, that's what I thought. It started with a tire mark. Then another. Then a random SUV. The first time, I figured someone got lost. The second time, I assumed it was a friend of my new neighbors who couldn't tell driveways apart. The third time? Oh, that's when I knew something shady was brewing. I work odd hours, so sometimes I'd come home at 9 p.m., other times 3 p.m. One Thursday afternoon, I came back early and found 4 cars parked on my lot. Not along the street, on my actual land, boxed in between my garage and some lumber I hadn't moved yet. 2 sedans, a Jeep, and a minivan with a stick-figure family on the back window. They weren't even trying to be sneaky about it. Just parked there like it was a Walmart on Black Friday. I parked my truck nose to nose with the Jeep, blocking them all in. Then I went inside to grab a beer and a lawn chair. Figured I'd have myself a little redneck stakeout. About 20 minutes later, I see them. A couple with matching tennis visors, kill me, a teenager with half a haircut, and someone's grandma all wandering back from the neighborhood park like it was just another sunny day. They stop when they see me, beer in hand, leaning back like I'm posing for a "Don't Tread on Me" flag. Tennis visor man squints at me. Excuse me, we're trying to leave? I nod. Yeah, you and me both. Except you're parked on my land. He laughs. Oh, come on, he says. HOA said this was overflow parking. I nearly choked on my beer. HOA said what now? Visor lady gives me the kind of look you reserve for people who don't sort their recycling. This is common use space. We've been using it for months. I took a deep breath, because something about this woman screamed, owns 3 slow cookers and uses none of them. You've been parking here illegally, I said. This is my private property. Well, you'll need to take it up with Marlene, she huffed, arms crossed. She's on the board. Marlene. There it was. Every HOA has one. Clipboard, passive-aggressive smile, and a god complex. I'd met her once when I first moved in. She'd handed me a welcome basket, told me the rules don't really apply to you, since your house isn't technically in the HOA zone, and then promptly started judging the way I mowed my lawn from 200 yards away. After some more back and forth, I let them out, but only after I took down every plate number and snapped a few pictures for good measure. Something told me this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This had been happening way longer than I realized. That night, I dug into my deed and land survey like a conspiracy theorist at 2 a.m. And sure enough, my lot, every inch of it, was outside the HOA jurisdiction. No easements, no shared access, no loopholes. I figured a friendly chat would fix it. I left a message for Marlene, but of course she didn't get it. So I showed up at the next HOA board meeting like a cowboy walking into a saloon. It was held in someone's overly Febrezed living room, with 6 members seated in a semicircle like the most judgmental cult you've ever seen. Marlene sat dead center, wearing a cardigan that probably had its own social security number. Hi, I said. I'm here about the cars on my property. She gave me a step-forward smile. You're not in the HOA, Mr. Connors. Right? Which is why your members shouldn't be parking on my land. Her smile twitched. We've been using that lot for overflow for years. Before I bought it, I corrected. You used it while it was vacant. That doesn't mean you own it. Another board member piped up. Well, there's an understanding. It's tradition. Tradition's not a legal defense, I said, keeping my voice calm. And starting tomorrow, I'm putting up no parking signs. Marlene's eyes narrowed. That would be extremely unfriendly of you. I grinned. Lady, I build decks for people I don't like. You think I care about friendly? I walked out of there knowing one thing. This wasn't over. But they weren't ready for what came next. The next morning, I hit the hardware store like a man on a mission. Came back with 3 big aluminum signs that said private property, no parking, violators will be towed at owner's expense, and a shiny new trail cam for good measure. Mounted one sign at the entrance to the gravel path, another near the garage, and a third right next to the biggest tire rut. Subtle? No. Effective? You bet. Then I called around and found a local towing company who practically high-fived me over the phone when I explained the situation. Turns out they love dealing with entitled HOA members. Apparently, mine wasn't the first neighborhood with this kind of overflow entitlement syndrome. Just call us when you see him, the guy said. We'll hook him up before they can say, but Marlene said. I laughed. Harder than I should have. By noon, the signs were up. By 3 p.m., there were 2 more cars parked on my land. I took pictures, called the tow company, and grabbed a lawn chair. Again, this time, I didn't even bother talking to the drivers. A big OL flatbed truck pulled up 20 minutes later, and let me tell you, I have never seen a grown woman sprint in flip-flops until that moment. Wait, that's my car. The driver looked at me. I gave him a nod. The lady, bless her soul, started yelling. You can't tow my car. This is community space. No, ma'am, I said, leaning against the garage like it was a witness stand. This is my space. You're trespassing. Marlene said we could park here. Well, Marlene ain't the DMV or the law. The tow truck guy gave her a polite shrug, then started hoisting the car. Her voice hit a pitch that could shatter fine china. I stayed calm, handed her one of the flyers I'd printed with the property survey, my name, and a short note. Next time, don't park on other people's land. She took it like I'd just slapped her with the Constitution. That day we towed 2. The next day, 3. By the end of the week, I'd had 7 cars hauled off my land. One of them belonged to some board member's teenage son who showed up later that night trying to play tough. I guess he thought I'd cave because he had a varsity jacket and a bad attitude. Dude, he said, you cost me $300. I looked up from the deck I was sanding. Sounds like an expensive parking spot. You're a jerk. Yup, but a jerk with a clean driveway. He left in a huff. I didn't see him again after that. But Marlene? Oh, she wasn't done. Nope. The HOA queen bee doubled down. That weekend, a new flyer showed up taped to my mailbox. It was printed on official-looking letterhead with the HOA's logo, a tree inside a circle, like it was a yoga studio or something. Attention homeowners. In light of recent confusion regarding community overflow parking, please be advised that the lot adjacent to 114 Stonebridge Lane has historically been used for this purpose. While not technically HOA property, we ask that homeowners continue to use it respectfully and avoid conflict. Efforts are being made to integrate this space into the community plan. Integrate this space. Like I was an extra slice of pie they hadn't asked for, but planned to eat anyway. I saw red. Not just because they were trying to publicly claim my land as their own little valet lot, but because she was trying to make me look like the unreasonable one. So I got a lawyer. Nothing fancy, just a guy who knew land use law and owed me a favor because I'd rebuilt his back porch after a termite infestation. I handed him the flyer, the photos, the tow receipts, and a copy of the property deed. He chuckled. You want to go nuclear or just drop a polite bomb? I thought for a moment. Let's start with polite, but loud. He drafted a cease and desist letter so sharp it could cut through Marlene's cardigans. Certified mail, with a CC to the county records office just to show we weren't bluffing. It spelled everything out in painful legalese. This land is privately owned. This HOA has no jurisdiction. Any continued use or implication of ownership constitutes trespassing and misrepresentation. We even quoted a statute or two, because nothing makes a clipboard warrior sweat like italicized legal codes. Then, just to drive the point home, I put up a motion sensor floodlight. You know, for security. Marlene's response came fast. Not in person, she wasn't that bold. But at the next HOA meeting, which I once again crashed with popcorn in hand, she had the gall to say this. We're disappointed that one of our community members has chosen to weaponize private property against the spirit of neighborhood cooperation. I raised my hand. Hi, weaponized property owner here. Just wondering, do I need to wear camouflage when I'm out back now? Someone snorted. Someone else applauded. Marlene's smile wilted like a cheap flower in the sun. I walked out of that meeting with a sense of something shifting. A few neighbors gave me the good luck with the crazies look. But others? They looked curious. One even muttered, "Good for you." That's when I realized I might not be as alone as I thought. I thought the signs, the toes, and the legal smackdown would end it. I really did. I gave Marlene too much credit. Turns out, when you take parking privileges away from an HOA queen bee, she doesn't retreat. She escalates. Like a raccoon with a grudge and a master's degree in passive aggression. The first sign something was up? A random city inspector showed up on my property 2 days after the HOA meeting. Clipboard, khakis, the whole bit. "I'm here to look into an anonymous complaint," he said. "About what?" He flipped through a few sheets. "Possible unpermitted structure on your lot." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean my garage? The one that's been here since the 70s. He shrugged. "Just following up. I'll need to take a few pictures." I let him do his thing, nothing to hide. But as he walked around, I saw the way he lingered on every shed, board pile, and tool chest like he was hoping something would be out of code. He didn't find anything. But it was the beginning of a new phase of HOA warfare, the complaint barrage. Over the next week, I got hit with a noise complaint for running my saw at 4 p.m. on a Saturday, a concern about improper disposal of construction materials because I had scrap wood in a bin, a trash violation because my garbage can lid wasn't fully closed during a windy day, and my personal favorite, a complaint about excessive gravel displacement, whatever the hell that means. All of them anonymous, all of them baseless, but each one required a response, a phone call, or a visit. My days started feeling like whack-a-mole with bureaucracy, but I wasn't about to let Marlene play chess while I stood around playing Go Fish. I started documenting everything. Trail cam footage, dates, times, license plates, weird HOA letters, inspector visits, the works. I kept a folder so fat it needed its own zip code. Then I added a second trail cam, hidden in a tree facing the path. You know, just in case. And it's a good thing I did. Because one night around 1 a.m., I caught a grainy clip of a figure creeping up my driveway with a stack of flyers. Same formatting, same HOA logo as before. She plastered them on my mailbox post, my garage, even my new no parking sign. The headline read, "Help us reclaim our community space." Underneath it said, "The lot on Stonebridge has been wrongfully restricted. We urge the neighborhood to stand together and resist intimidation tactics. Let's show what unity looks like." I nearly spit out my coffee when I read that one. Unity? Lady, you've been launching petty airstrikes on my lawn for a week. But the best part wasn't the flyer, it was the footage. Even in the dark, that cropped haircut and stiff cardigan silhouette were unmistakable. Marlene, in the HOA equivalent of Black Ops. I called my lawyer the next morning. "I have footage of their board president trespassing on my property in the middle of the night," I said. Silence. "Please tell me you're serious," he finally replied. "Oh, I'm dead serious. Want me to send it over?" I emailed him the file. He called me back, laughing like he'd just watched a courtroom blooper reel. "We can do a restraining order. Maybe even hit her with a harassment claim. At the very least, we're sending a very spicy cease and desist." And we did. This time, it came with a bolded paragraph about criminal trespassing and false public representation of ownership. We even included still frames of Marlene doing her 1 a.m. flyer mission like it was an episode of Neighborhood Ninjas. I sent a copy to the HOA board, too, directly. Didn't trust Marlene to forget again. One of the other board members, a guy named Alan, called me afterward. "Look," he said, voice low, "I didn't know she was doing that. This is getting out of hand." "You think?" I said. "She's got half the board scared to cross her. But some of us are starting to talk." Interesting. Then came the petty parking rebellion. That weekend, despite everything, 3 cars showed up on my lot. Not just parked, but parked strategically. One half blocked the garage. One was crooked like someone tried parallel parking and gave up halfway. And one, a beige sedan that screamed, "Retired librarian with rage issues," had a flyer under the wiper that said, "This land belongs to the people." I called the tow truck so fast, I think I pulled a muscle. But this time, I stayed out there while they were hauled off. I wanted Marlene to see me. I wanted her to know I wasn't blinking. And she saw. Oh, she saw? I caught her staring from across the street, arms folded like she was trying to hold in her fury with sheer posture. We locked eyes. She didn't wave. Neither did I. She walked back inside, and for the first time, she looked nervous. Because now, it wasn't just about parking. It was about control, and she was losing it. So, Marlene was officially on the ropes. But like any self-respecting HOA dictator, she wasn't going down without dragging the whole neighborhood into her little drama opera. After the midnight trespassing stunt and the triple toe incident, things went quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that either means they've finally given up or they're planning something stupid. Guess which one it was. 2 weeks later, I got hit with a notice taped to my door, delivered, not mailed. That's how I knew it was Marlene's handiwork. Her handwriting looked like it was forged in the fires of a type A personality disorder. Notice of community mediation. You are hereby invited to attend a voluntary mediation meeting between the HOA board and yourself regarding ongoing parking disputes and matters of neighborhood unity. Voluntary. Right. I showed it to my lawyer. He rolled his eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. You know this has no legal teeth, right? Yeah, I said. But I want to go. He looked at me. Really? Oh yeah. I've got receipts. Let's put them on the projector. So I prepped. Spent 2 nights organizing every photo, every email, every flyer, and every frame of grainy Marlene cam footage. I even brought a manila folder titled Exhibit A, Slander and Shenanigans. Mediation was held in the community clubhouse, a room that smelled like cinnamon air freshener and passive aggression. Marlene was already there, perched at the head of the table like the ghost of Christmas micromanagement. Her sweater was pink. Her smile was fake. The rest of the board sat beside her, shifting uncomfortably. Alan gave me a quick nod, the kind you give someone before the fireworks go off. The mediator was some poor guy from the county's community affairs office. He looked like he regretted his career choices the second I walked in. Let's begin, he said, clearing his throat. We're here to discuss concerns raised by both parties regarding the shared use of. Let me stop you right there, I said, pulling out the deed. There is no shared use. This is my property, deeded, taxed, and maintained by me. There's no legal basis for any claim the HOA has made. Marlene leaned forward, hands clasped like a school principal. We simply want to find a peaceful resolution that benefits the community. Funny, I said, because your version of peaceful involves trespassing, vandalism, and unauthorized use of private land. I slid over the stills of her late-night flyer spree. Marlene's eye twitched. The mediator looked mildly alarmed. Miss Green, did you place these flyers? She cleared her throat. I may have attempted to raise community awareness. On my property. At 1 a.m., I said, which I have documented with timestamps, license plates, and video, along with 7 recorded vehicle tows, all of which were preceded by clearly posted signs. Alan jumped in, cautiously. Look, Marlene, this has gotten out of hand. We're supposed to be managing landscaping budgets, not launching turf wars. Marlene turned on him. You're siding with him? I'm siding with the law, he said. And common sense. The mediator held up a hand. All right, this has clearly moved beyond mediation. Mr. Connors, are you seeking any formal resolution? I smiled and opened folder B. Yes, I'm filing a formal complaint with the county regarding HOA harassment and misrepresentation. And if these flyers or false claims about my property continue, I'll be pursuing civil action. Marlene went full statue mode. Rigid, pale, silent. After that meeting, something changed. Not immediately, but gradually. Like the HOA board started waking up from a Marlene-induced trance. Alan stepped down a week later, citing ethical concerns. 2 more board members followed within the month. Then the letters stopped. The complaints stopped. The cars stopped. For a glorious 2 weeks, I could actually use my driveway without playing Whose Lexus Is This? But you know what they say about calm before storms? Because just when I thought it was over, I got a summons in the mail. Marlene was suing me. I nearly choked on my breakfast burrito. The claim? Defamation of character, loss of community standing, and malicious interference with HOA functions. You can't make this stuff up. My lawyer read through it, then looked at me with the exhausted face of a man who's dealt with one too many suburban drama queens. She's trying to scare you, he said. But it's all hot air. We'll file for dismissal. And if it goes to court, we counterclaim. He was right. It was hot air. The judge didn't even let it get past the preliminary hearing. But I wanted my pound of flesh. So we filed a counterclaim for legal fees, harassment, and trespass damages. And oh boy, Marlene hated that. She showed up to the hearing in a blazer that probably had HOA bylaws sewn into the lining. She tried to spin it like I'd waged a personal vendetta against her. But the judge? He wasn't having it. Especially after we showed him the footage. The flyers. The anonymous complaints. The certified cease and desist she ignored. And when we brought up the parking lot integration plan, she floated in those HOA letters. The judge actually laughed. In the end, I won the case. She was ordered to pay my legal fees, issue a formal apology, though you could practically see the smoke coming out of her ears when she did, and abstain from any official HOA business involving my property going forward. But the best part? That public courtroom transcript went straight to the HOA records. So now every board member, present and future, knows the full story. In glorious, footnoted detail. After the courtroom victory, I figured I'd finally earned some peace and quiet. No more flyers. No more HOA guerrilla tactics. No more Marlene. The neighborhood calmed down fast, like a group of school kids suddenly realizing the substitute teacher does send kids to the principal's office. I was getting nods from people I'd never even talked to. One guy left a 6-pack of beer on my porch with a sticky note that said, "For standing up to the clipboard cult." I didn't even know his name, but he's forever on my Christmas card list now. Marlene, meanwhile, slithered back into whatever HOA dimension she came from. She didn't show her face for weeks. Her name was removed from the newsletter. People said she resigned from the board for personal reasons, but everyone knew the real story. And I thought that was the end of it. But then came the for sale sign, right on her pristine front lawn. Brand new, with a real estate agent name I recognized from the HOA's preferred vendor list. My first thought was, no way she's leaving. Not Marlene. Not Queen Clipboard. Not the woman who once got a neighbor fined for planting non-approved tulips. But the rumors were true. She was packing up, allegedly downsizing, to be closer to family. I had my doubts. More likely she couldn't stomach living in a neighborhood where her power had fizzled faster than an off-brand sparkler. Still, I couldn't quite believe it until I saw her on moving day, wearing that same pink cardigan and barking orders at the movers. I stood with a cup of coffee, watched her load the last box into the truck, and gave her a little wave. She didn't wave back. She stared at me for a few seconds, long enough to remember every flyer, every smug board meeting, every tow truck pulling her kingdom apart. And then she got in her car and left. No drama, no speech, just the faint sound of defeat blowing in the wind. But here's where it gets really satisfying. A week later, Alan, the ex-board member who'd jumped ship, stopped by while I was fixing a railing. "You hear about the audit?" he asked. "What audit?" After you filed that counterclaim, the county started poking around some of the HOA's practices. Apparently, Marlene had been reallocating budget funds for community improvements without proper approval. I raised an eyebrow. "You mean?" "Yeah. She used HOA money to print those flyers. And to pay for that sketchy overflow lot integration plan that never existed. Turns out, she was dipping into the petty cash piggy bank to bankroll her war against me. Long story short, she didn't just lose face, she was facing a civil investigation. Nothing criminal, but enough to leave her reputation shredded. Her house sold below asking price. The new owners? A retired couple with a Great Dane named Butch and a "Don't Tread on Me" flag on their camper. We're getting along just fine. The HOA, meanwhile, got a full board overhaul. Alan got voted in as president, And to his credit, he pushed through a change that officially removed any mention of my land from the overflow parking policy. It's now marked as a private lot on all community maps. He even stopped by with a draft of the new guidelines and asked me to review them as a concerned neighbor. "Looks good," I said, handing it back. "Just make sure there's a section titled 'Keep Your Wheels Off Nate's Property.'" We both laughed. And now? Well, things are quiet. Peaceful. I still keep the trail cams up because, trust but verify, but mostly I spend my weekends in the garage, working on projects, drinking cold beer, and enjoying the sweet sound of not scraping car tires where they don't belong. Sometimes, I see neighbors slow down as they walk past, looking over at my signs, or maybe checking for a tow truck lurking behind the bushes. I just nod and give him a friendly wave. Let's be clear, I'm not a villain. I'm not even anti-HOA. But if you try to turn my land into a free-for-all parking carnival, you're going to pay the meter. And if anyone ever tries to pull another community claim on me, well, let's just say the tow company's still on speed dial. Thank you for being with us. Please share in the comments where you are watching from and whether you liked everything, and see you next time.